Probably in less than a minute. Because the more vulnerable, anxiety infected and power dependent the relationship is between two parties, the more that emotion is the currency that is used to decide what is safe. The sociologists have long known that power difference and status difference is a major site for the generation of emotion. Therefore, all interactions between social workers and our clients are sites for emotion, because they are all sites for power difference. Therefore, all interactions between managers and their staff are sites for emotion, aren't they? For the same reason. And Terry Spratt, in his research in Northern Ireland, interviewing parents, said again and again and again, the parents returned to the first 2 or 3 minutes of how the social worker was with them. Given what I said earlier, that these are a group of people in our society who are hyper-vigilant about the management of emotion, it is not surprised that they need to check in the first 2 or 3 minutes whether we are safe to do business with, long before we work out whether there might be safety issues for them. Research on observation says that they've done some nice research which gets people to watch an emotionally powerful film. Well, we could think of anything. Let's think of Schindler's Ark. Schindler's Ark? Okay, we can think of it. And what the researchers do is instruct half the audience the instruction is to recall as much of the film as you can. Half of the audience is instructed to suppress all emotional recall. Half of the audience is told to use everything that helps you to recall. Well, guess which half of the audience recalled more? The group that included emotion in their recall. Why is that? Because emotion is primarily information. We really have to rehabilitate the language of emotion. It has become so impoverished and corroded in bureaucracies because we have got to a point where we really don't distinguish between being emotional and using emotion. And we have to get better than that, because that has many gender-laden messages that sit perniciously beneath them. And what that allows people to do is to license the marginalisation of emotion as a fundamentally important source of information. We have to stop people when they muddle up emotional and emotion, because it's code for who's in control of this discourse. If we think about assessment, now I'm going to show you some fun, here we go. I'm going to come back to the thing. Now, I haven't got time to do this exercise with you fully. This is some research from Kieran McEwen, the Department of Health and Children in the Republic of Ireland. And in the year 2000, he was asked to do this great big meta-lit review about what works in family support to vulnerable families. So he did a big meta-review of the literature. He also was the fieldwork researcher on Ireland's 15 family support projects. What he came up with was this, that he said there were 4 major influences on change. The single largest influence was all of the characteristics of the client in her context. What do we mean by characteristics? We do not mean personality. He meant IQ, history, health, education, neurology, socioeconomic status, affluence versus poverty, and social support. Secondly, the next 30% is accounted by the quality of the worker's relationship with their client. In particular, empathy and planfulness. Already, both of those outscore method by 3 and 2 to 1, don't they? What is even more powerful is if you combine understanding the user, which is assessment, isn't it? Assessment is our task in understanding our user in her context. If you combine assessment and relationship, you get a 70% effect. Why should we combine those two? Have the relational skills of the assessor got anything to do with the quality of assessment? Hugely. What might I be able to talk to you, my assessor, about if I experience you as role and emotionally coherent? Anything that is morally, emotionally laden is massively and immediately susceptible to the relationship skills of the assessor. Any discussion of parenting, any discussion of history, any discussion of drinking, any discussion of rules for discipline is an emotional discussion, isn't it? Because it's about who I am, who I'm perceived to be. I suggest to you that the difference in assessment is made at least as much by the emotional attunement of the worker than the particular assessment instrument you use, and that the tool is only as good as the hands in which it's in. The current main UK assessment framework for children not only has no place for cognitions in it, even worse, it has very little place for the exploration of feelings, except at the level of what are the client's feelings and wishes, which is a very narrow, it really doesn't take us into the domain of what is the emotional meaning of being a child, a parent, a carer in this situation, which is a much more profound discussion. If assessment is the bedrock of care practice, which it is, we will never deliver a good assessment service unless not only do we quality assure assessment, but we also enable and quality assure the relational skills of frontline assessors. It is absolutely no use having the best assessment instrument in the universe if relationship fractures go unnoticed by supervisors and unassisted. We might as well throw the tool in the bin. It'll be fine for exchanging collateral information about this child's IQ or that man's previous convictions, but in any of the areas that require a psychological explanation for behaviour, once the relationship is fractured and not reflected upon, it's not the fracturing, it's the not reflecting upon it, then our assessment is lost. Once your assessment is lost, you can no longer guarantee your care service, can you? We are very happy to look at the instrument end of this, far less committed to looking at the relationship end of this. Making decisions, there's some wonderful research by Isen, I-S-E-N. She found that positive affect was associated with an ability to take more information in, to make more links before information, to be open to different hypotheses, and to collaborate better. And her research design was wonderful. She gave a bunch of GPs some toffees and gave another bunch of GPs no toffees and asked them to do the same diagnostic questionnaire. And the GPs who were happy because they'd had the toffees made a better diagnosis. Frankly, I think there's a fairly simple, practical, piece of advice I'd give all of you. Never go to the GP without a Mars bar. One caveat. You also need skeptics, but it's the ratio of the optimists to the skeptics. I don't want a team full of optimists because they may miss things. Skeptics are really important for being suspicious of information. But if I want to have a team, I want 5 optimists and 1 skeptic. I don't want 5 skeptics and 1 optimist, because otherwise you'll get deficit practice, deficit model practice. So I want my positive affect because it loosens mental efficiency. But I don't want it to go unanchored with that role that people who have other skills do in testing information. And in working together, it seems to me we wouldn't need to cite research about how fundamental emotion is to working together. Because working together is about identity. We are trading who we are, not just what we do. Okay. Donnie, I think I might just go for another 5 minutes and then pause. Is that, I've lost...
I keep wondering how you're going to finish.
Sue. So about another 5 minutes? Okay.